Hello from the Brown Cow. Have you ever wondered how we make all of our custom decadent creations here at the shop? Well, we're gonna show you exactly how in our new series called What's the Scoop? Every month you'll learn how to make something totally sweet with your friends and family. All you do is come into the shop and pick up the kit with everything you need, and then join me here on YouTube and we'll make it together. What's the scoop this month? Lego ice cream cakes. If you had fun, like this video and subscribe so you'll always know what's the scoop at the Brown Cow. To make your Lego ice cream cake, you're gonna need a couple extra tools besides the kit that you picked up at the Brown Cow. An offset spatula. If you don't have one of these, I'm gonna show you how to use just a knife. You'll need a spatula, a pair of scissors. You're gonna need a mixer. It doesn't need to be a stand mixer. It can also be a hand mixer. And then you're just gonna need a cup of water. So let's get started. From the freezer, you should have your ice cream and your cake, which came separate. And then out of the refrigerator, you shall pull your 2 1/4 cups of your non-dairy whipped cream frosting. We have some different colors of dye, depending on what color you want to make your Lego. We're gonna go with yellow today. And then we also have some large Legos. If you have small children, just be careful, but they are quite of the larger ones. So you'll first start by layering your cake. And we're gonna do this first and then put it right back into the freezer. In your bag is a board so you can make your cake. I'm gonna put it on here. If you have a turntable, it's easier. And in this package are 2 pieces of cake. You just take one of the pieces of cake. Doesn't matter which way it goes. And then in here, in this brick here, is a brick of chocolate cake. You open up the cake and you flip this cake upside down on top of it, and then you flip it. That way it's all lined up. You're not manhandling any of the ice cream. There you go. So what you're gonna wanna do is make sure that it's squared up, just like so, and then you're gonna put the last piece right on top, like that. And we're gonna go ahead and put this in the freezer while we make the rest of the whipped cream frosting. Now we're gonna start with making the whipped cream frosting. I've already mixed it for you. You will add that to your mixer or a mixing bowl with a hand mixer. And then we're gonna add in the food dye, whatever color you would like. Again, we're gonna start with yellow. When your whipped cream frosting is done, it'll be thick enough to stand on a spoon or the back of a spatula or a knife. So once that's done, you're gonna set that aside. We're gonna go and start with frosting the tops of the, I don't know, what are these even called? Like the connector pucks at the top of a Lego brick. We have 6 of them in here for you. If you would like to use all 6, you could use 4. This is going to be the trickiest part of the whole cake. So if you have one of these, go ahead and just put a smidge on each one of them. That is a technical term. And you're gonna start with the tops of them and work your way to the sides. They don't have to be perfect. We can make them perfect later, so don't worry about it. The reason why we're starting with this is you can get the idea of how to work with the frosting before we have the ice cream, because once we pull out the ice cream cake, you're gonna have to work really fast. Okay, here's where this knife will come in really handy. You can go ahead and pick them up. So you're gonna go across like this, and then you're gonna try and smooth it out on the sides. You see I'm kind of pushing it in and going back and forth. These again are the trickiest part. We're gonna go all the way around it. Don't worry about making a mess. We just wanna get them all covered up. If you give up on this and you don't even wanna do it, because they're such a pain, I'm gonna show you a trick later what you can do besides these, but I just wanted to show you how we do them here, okay? Now that you have them all covered, it's time to make them pretty. This is where your water is gonna come in. And you're gonna dip your tools into the water, and then you can go back through, add a little bit whipped cream if you need to, and this is when you're gonna make them really smooth. Now that you have some whipped cream on there too, it's made them a little bit stronger, it's made them a little bit heavier, and they're not gonna move around on you. go, there's one. And we're just gonna continue this process with all of them. When they're all done, they should look something like this. Again, they don't have to be perfect yet. We're gonna put them on and then we'll perfect them once they're on top of the brick. So I'm gonna go ahead and take these off and we're gonna put them, transfer them to another plate or a tray or whatever else you'd like, and we're gonna put them back into the freezer. When you're at the freezer, go ahead and pull out the ice cream cake you've already layered. Don't worry, if it starts to get soft, you're just gonna put it right back in the freezer. Take your time, but just watch that it's not getting too gooey. At that point, you're gonna wanna put it right back into the freezer. Here's how you're gonna start. With most cakes, you start frosting the top and then work your way to the side. With an ice cream cake, you wanna do just the opposite because you wanna lock in all of that cold ice cream as fast as you can. So I'm gonna start by just scraping some whipped cream frosting on the side, like that. If you're not using an offset spatula, like this, you can also use a knife, and you're just gonna take it and scrape it right there on the side. If it falls, don't worry about it. This doesn't have to be pretty. You're just applying it to the side. Once you have it all on the sides, you're gonna start to push it in. So you're gonna go back and forth, and you're just pushing it in so it's against as flat as you can. Don't worry about making it pretty, you're just making it flat. Again, you're gonna go back and forth like this. One of the very first custom ice cream cakes we made at the Brown Cow was a yellow brick cake. And when you're working with it, because it's a square cake, round cakes are almost easier because you can just kind of keep going around and around. Squares you're gonna have to make, or rectangular, you're gonna have to make these corner pieces, and I'll show you how. It's kind of like an envelope where you're gonna make sure that when you're going back and forth, you're overlapping and letting it squish off the sides just like that. It's gonna help us make our corners. You're gonna go to the top. So we're just gonna take a big old blob, put it right there on the top. There should be plenty of whipped cream frosting to make your whole cake, so don't worry about that. If you ever even wanted to like reserve a little bit, not make it one color for your brick, and you wanna make a little extra of white so you can write on it, or maybe of a different color, you have plenty to do that too. Okay, so on the top, I'm just gonna go back and forth. So again, I'm just pushing it into the cake. I'm not making, I'm going back and forth like this. And it's flopped over the sides here, right? And then it's flopped over the sides up and down vertically too. And that's exactly what we want. Because now we're gonna come back through and we're gonna seal all of those corners. Do you see how this side here, if I go like this across the sides, straight up and down, it sealed that top corner. There's no longer a gap there. Don't worry about if it's poked through, we'll fix that part later. All we're looking to do is to make sure that we're creating that seal there. And then we're gonna go ahead and we're gonna do the same thing on this side. Now I can see when my whipped cream starts to smush around like that, that means that it's getting soft. So I wanna hurry real quick. I don't wanna have all these little peaks in there when I put it back in the freezer to get cold. I'm gonna take this on an angle like this, and I'm just gonna get that peak right off. It doesn't have to be perfect, I just wanna get the peak off. Then again on the sides, I wanna get these peaks off. So I'm just gonna pull it towards me. And on this side, it doesn't have to be perfect. I just don't want them sticking out. Pull it towards me. Now I don't have anything protruding and crazy little pokes anywhere because I'm gonna put this back in the freezer. If I were to put it back in the freezer with all those peaks, it would be really hard to continue frosting once it freezes over. So I'm gonna put this back in the freezer for just a minute. Okay, I just took it back out of the freezer. This is gonna allow us to kind of smooth back over the surfaces we've already frosted. So we're gonna come back through. Now we're gonna make it pretty. We're gonna spend a good amount of time just making sure that this is all nice and smooth. If yours is moving around, here's one thing I do to keep it from moving. You can put a little bit of whipped cream frosting underneath. Don't forget it's there though, because you'll get smudge everywhere. If you're having a hard time getting that smooth, I'm going to tell you that the longer this sits out, or if you're working in a really warm space, it gets a little bit soft and puffy, and it makes it harder to get super smooth. But that's what the water's for. We're going to go back and you'll see how that works. And now I'm going to go back to the top. I don't want to use all that frosting. We need a little bit left over for the end, and you'll see why. All right, I'm just smoothing out this top, making sure it goes over again, flops over the top. Here's where your water is going to work again. So you're going to use just a little bit of water in there, and it's going to make this so smooth. Here's where we're going to scrape off again. We just want to go back and forth till that whole thing is flat. And now we're going to work around. We're going to go back and forth by taking this. We're basically going to cut off this corner, right? Like we did before. We're going to cut it off and smooth straight across. And it created that perfect seal. And we're going to do that again here. If it's this way, you're going to want to cut it off in this direction. So you're going to go cut it off just like that. Don't worry about the top just yet. You can kind of see that the top is peeking up again. Don't worry. And I have a couple of peaks here on the top. Pull those towards me. You're always pulling towards me. Don't push away. And you're not up and around. You're just going to pull straight across it. Here's what we're missing now on this brick. We're missing the little knobs on the top. So I'm going to go get those and we're going to place them on top. We have these from our freezer. Because these are nice and hard, it's going to be easier to just kind of plop them in. Start with the centered ones. Go. You can see that there's a gap, and we're going to fix that in just a minute. It's starting to look like a Lego brick. Here we go. Our Lego bricks are on. You can see that there's a gap here, and that's what we're going to fix last. In your kit, you have a piping bag. So I want you to go ahead and take the piping bag, and you're going to open it up like this, like fold it over like a sock, right? And you're going to put your hand underneath it and cup it. So I have my hand underneath that little folded over area, and that's the way you fill a piping bag without getting it everywhere. And then you're going to take the rest of your whipped cream frosting, whatever's left. There's not going to be a lot, and that's okay. So I'm putting this in here like this, and I'm scraping it off onto my fingers that you're hiding underneath there. You're going to push it down just like this. You're going to have a little bit of a gap of air in there, and that's okay. That's where your scissors come in. We don't need a giant hole. I'm going to say about yay-ish. And we're going to use this because we're going to cover up, and we're going to smooth it out in a minute, so don't worry. We're just going to fill in that gap. Anywhere you see a gap between a cake and the puck and the top, just fill it with a little bit of whipped cream. Once I've filled all those gaps, I'm going to go ahead and take my knife, and again you're going to need your water, and we're going to go through and just smooth out again. So if your pucks aren't perfect, here's the time you can kind of keep going back and over them and make them as pretty as you want them to be. Okay, we've filled up all of those little gaps. I'm going to smooth out any of the edges that we have left. You can take it from there and add any other decorations. We gave you some extra ones like this. If you wanted to add them on, you're welcome to. Also, if you gave up on getting those pucks to work, don't worry. You could probably even, instead of using the cake pucks that we gave you, you can create them your own by just making a round like this. And then you can use your knife to smooth it out and make your own that way. Do what you think works. It's hard to get these perfect this way, but if you just give up entirely and you just want to create your own little round pucks, you can do it this way. I look forward to seeing what you create with your colors and anything additional you want. Maybe you have some of your own Legos at home and you want to add your little guys on there. Whatever you do, I want you to take pictures of it or video and share it to social media and then tag us. So hashtag BC What's the Scoop, and then I can see what you created. If you had a great time, go ahead and like the video and subscribe so you always know what's the scoop at the Brown Cow. So next month, here's a little hint. Think pizza.